welcome to the April meeting of the Forsyth Amateur Radio Club. It's good to see everybody here this evening. I don't know why we've got such a big turnout. I can't imagine what would have brought everybody out, other than the program on fox hunting, perhaps, along with a couple other things that Don has to present, possibly. Anyway, it's good to see everybody. We'll start off with introductions and go around the room. I'm Tim, obviously, AG4RZ, and I guess we'll start with John from there.
N0KTY, John.
Judson, KG40HQ.
David, N5WNB.
Doc, WB4QIZ. Les, KJ4JYZ.
Gary, KJ4ZMP.
Henry, W2DZO.
Eric, WK4GW.
Steve, WA3RTC.
My name's Joseph, and I just want to learn about him.
All right.
Deal.
I'm Van, KC4WSK, and Joseph came to me tonight. This is Harry Graham's son, who's been doing for previous years.
Bruce, WB4QCM.
Mike, M4VE. George, KJ4FAE.
Bill, KF4AMB.
Jeff, AC4YN.
Terry, AK4D.
Jim, W4UX.
Jim, WB4MSG.
Gary, WA4BLC.
Jerry, K4 Goodwin.
And you are?
Go back.
He hasn't figured that out lately.
I started to say. Well, let's see. I guess if there's anything the secretary would like to present to the
They're
club.
in the newsletter.
Okay. Motion.
Pages of them.
Is there a motion on the floor for that?
I will make a motion that we accept the minutes as published in the newsletter.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Easy enough. All right. And if the treasurer is ready, I see him calculating.
Yes, sir. No need to calculate. They're already calculated, sir. Okay, first of all, I just want to remind everybody, if you care, that we have moved, RBC Canada has now been bought out by PNC Bank, which apparently is an American bank as opposed to a Canadian bank. And so now all our money is in those accounts, and they grandfathered our no fee business checking account to this new bank. So nothing's changed. I just had to get all new deposit slips and all that stuff, but everything's fine. Our balance right now is $1,381.77. Appreciate everybody for paying dues. We had a very nice deposit for dues. I have not checked. I usually check on Mondays, but I didn't go today. I will check, but we did check last week and got a nice slew of dues payments in, so thanks very much. And that balance includes our, or the check that we wrote for the repeater has gone through and is out of that, so this is clear. So that's $1,381.77. That also includes the field day payment was taken care of, and that was it. The other thing I just want to report, switching over to the North Carolina QSO party, the date for the logs coming in for that was last week. April 1st was the last day, so that's closed. We had a total of 164 logs, which is by far the most we've ever had. So we'll start chumming through those logs and figuring out who's done well. We had a couple new categories this year, which I think was the reason why we had so many new. The de-expedition category that was added in really brought a lot of folks out to go to public parks and go to different places and operate, from a de-expedition style. So we had a bunch of those. That's going to be an interesting thing. So anyway, that was at 164. And I don't know if Don's going to address it, but just to remind everybody that tonight was the night. We have several folks have brought in sealed bids for the equipment that was listed in the newsletter. I will take those sealed bids effective as of now as we go through. So just drop them off to me, and then we'll get back to you when we have them all in. So if you have them, give them to me now. Should we wait till a certain time before we're gonna?
We have envelopes and paper.
There's envelopes, papers up here. You want to say, well, let's set a time for tonight so we can at least have I know people are gonna want response. So if anybody's the least bit interested, why don't we just say we'll open those at 8:30? Is that fair? Gives you 55 minutes to, if you want to jump in the fray. It's a sealed bid, and the minimums are listed in the newsletter. All right, thanks.
All right, and it appears our tech committee chairman as well as our Aries rep are still doing testing, so we'll hold off on reports from them until they get down here. With that, is there any new business?
They're not here.
Oh, they're not here tonight? Okay. All right, never mind. Go ahead, Dan.
Aries-ish stuff.
Okay.
The Three Mountains Atlas is June 2nd.
Mhm.
We need like 17 hops for that day. We all know this is the group we really like to impress. So, if anybody has that, it's an all-day thing. Anybody that's June 2nd.
When?
Can help out with.
June 2nd.
Me or Eric or Jim Mansfield and some other folks.
Is there any other new business? Gene?
This, Jim and I worked on the 15-meter boxing for field day. We started on an X-beam for 20, and we're gonna get the trailer over to his house and work on the PHC and go through it. So, and they started just to see if they were gonna work, and one of the filters that we're gonna use for running all the stations through on field day, and it worked out okay. So we're proceeding along, and at the next meeting, I'm gonna try to pass around a sheet and get people's names and phone numbers, if they don't mind, that would be interested in helping in the respect of before field day, if time works out for me and them too, if I could get some different people to say that they would be interested in coming over and seeing how to set one of the antenna systems up, so that when we go to field day, we can put them with that one antenna, and that's their deal to set that one up that morning, so we can have a pretty easy setup on things. So I don't know how things will work out between now and then, but it'll definitely be at the end of this month once we come back from the
All right, anything else?
Are we gonna run a GOTA station at the?
Yeah.
At this point, we're gonna have, Jim's gonna run CW on 10, 15, 20. Henry's gonna be on 40 CW. And other people can run those some too, if they wanna get in there and run some.
Those are like the station captains, quote
Yeah.
unquote.
And then we're gonna have a 6-meter station set up, a GOTA station set up. Jerry's gonna be on the 10-meter station and manning it. We're gonna have a 20-meter sideband station running. We're gonna have a 15-meter sideband station. It'll also probably do 40 sideband. And then Kim's gonna be in charge of the PSK station. And altogether, we're gonna have 12 different antenna systems up and running 8 or 9 rigs, depending on how things work out. Plus, we're still planning on doing, with John's rig, a satellite station. So 8 or 9 rigs and 12 antennas, so we got a lot of work to do when we get there, Stan.
Okay. Who were the 10 captains again? Henry and?
Henry for 40. Gene, you wanna go over that list again so Don can get it in the newsletter?
Gene, the captains again for Don, for the
Gene,
newsletter.
so Don can, yeah.
Come again?
Henry was the 40-meter CW captain, and what was the other one?
Let me just get you a list, sir, if you want.
Okay.
to. Be
All right.
I'm going over all of it.
Anything else? Yes, ma'am.
Couple questions about the auction.
Okay.
What about, do you buy as is, where is? If you get it home, it doesn't work right?
As is, where is?
Yep.
Okay.
As is where it is.
Okay. And, in the January meeting, a couple of us, you know, I said, let's have this committee, and I know Steve Wilson and myself volunteered, and we never heard anything. I mean, we wasn't called, with any input at all, so what was this? I wonder why.
We had it, I can attest that we had it in the newsletter, that we were meeting about it at the board meetings, and we had a bunch of people show up to talk about it. People that had never come, they just,
Well, Steve said he wasn't notified either, so I didn't.
it was in the newsletter.
Okay.
So, I'm sorry about that. We told everybody in the newsletter and did the best we could to try to get input, and we talked about it at 2 meetings. I don't think there was certainly no, the only decisions that were made were decisions that were, when we requested people to send emails, and people sent emails and concepts about what they wanted to keep, and then they all showed up at the meeting, and then all we did was decide what values are gonna be put on one and what stuff we're gonna keep. And once we did that, the rest of it was gonna be put out. So it's still, if you want this stuff, you can still get it. Because if it doesn't get bid tonight, we're gonna move to the next market, which is probably gonna be eBay. And then you can get it there, and go from there, but, I don't know what else. There's really not much else I could have done there other than say that we had put it in the newsletter, and a bunch of people came up and said they wanted to be a part of it, and then they sent us emails, so we figured that was it. So there was nothing backdoor in any
Are you
way.
gonna put the rest of it on eBay or QSL or whatever it is?
QTH.
That was the next step. We wanted to see what we had left. We were hoping most of it goes, and I've got 4 bids already, and there's 4 big pieces of gear, so that might just take care of us.
Turn that
Except
off.
say-
All right, anything else? Okay. Now that I've turned it off, Jerry, you want to tell everybody what the noise was about?
Yeah, we can do that. Me and Mike can tell you what's
All right.
Since our guy didn't show up, we had a guy that was gonna do.
We're ad-libbing here, buddy.
That's all right.
That's good.
This is on the fly.
We're gonna make this up as we go, so.
What we were trying to do is get some interest in fox hunting, and, I don't know how much fox hunting you guys do, but we, all the noise that's been happening is the fox. And the fox is this little box that's transmitting every so many minutes. And it's got a radio and a controller in it. And it's just, is making noise every so often because of its ID. And we can have it ID, actually more often, but right now it's pretty annoying anyway. And
I am the fox. Transmitting from the hidden location. Find me if you can. W416.
so it IDs every so often, and the idea is to use a directional antenna to find it. And you can build some of these directional antennas out of PVC for about $5. They're actually very cheap to build. That one's a pretty professional,
Yeah.
looks like a 2 meter.
Yeah, it's just regular 2 meter, 4 or 5 element beam. It's light enough to be handheld. If somebody's somebody's interfering with the repeater, don't get on the repeater frequency. That's get on the input frequency. So that's some people make that mistake. But the way this should work, if you rotate it around, you pick up a signal this way. If you go this way 90 degrees, you should lose the signal. But if you come back around 180, you'll pick up the signal again. And being the stronger side is the direction. This rejects, so kind of gives you a good indication of where the signal is coming from. A couple of things. The Fox. I know the Salisbury Club. I'll tell a story on them. They had a new guy that did the Fox. He went out and hid the transmitter, and he hid it on his sister's farm, and it had a road that said private drive. And they hid the transmitter down there in the whole club, all hunting, kind of screwed the whole thing up. They went and they got to the drive that said private drive, and every time if you involved in this, it'll always be hidden on public property, not somebody's basement or, so that's one clue, but it kind of messed the whole thing up. But,
Yeah, they're supposed to do these things in public parks, like public places. Usually a club will have a bunch of guys get together and build these little cheap directional antennas, build them out of PVC and actually a loop of wire and some band clamps, and they're very short. They're much probably shorter than that. And they build the elements out of tape measure. I think Steve Wilson's built a few of those things too with the Boy Scouts. But they're cheap to build. You could do a group, build on the antennas or whatever you got. You can use whatever you have and build the antennas. The idea is to go out, hide the Fox, the transmitter, somewhere within a reasonable walking distance in a park. And then it has to be in sight, on a pole, tree, something, in an area. And,
That's the one we built several years ago.
How about that? So, well, yeah, this is the idea right here. That's a simpler one with a 2-element, but it'll work. And then
That's used with 300 ohm college.
twin lead inside, yeah.
Twin lead inside.
Have you seen the one with the, that you built out of the $2 Harbor Freight tape measure?
I built a couple
Yeah,
of those.
yeah, they're actually pretty cheap to build. You can build them with 1/2-inch tubing, stainless steel clamps. And I thought that's the one Steve would bring over, but
Yeah, he has a fancy one.
professional version.
Yeah. You know, this day and time, it's, like it, I'll pick on a group of people, but we get, our new ham today come from other bands. That's a nice way to put it, but, look at, you know, they're used to doing the interference stuff, and I'm sure we're getting the only good hams, but there's gonna be a bad apple in the box somewhere, you know, so we, it's a good thing to do. The Salisbury Club does this once a month, and, they've gotten pretty good at it. So, when I'm teaching a class, I'll tell these guys one little, in the book, in a technician book, it talks about RDF, and, I'll tell the students, I said, guys, I said, you know, if you're thinking about interfering with a repeater or something, I said, they'll find it. I said, you know, you're off in the basement, you know, playing around and keying up. I said, don't think you can't be found, because you can. And so, I think as we get more people onto the bands, the more stuff I hear on the bands, it's more of a necessity to do this than, we need to show a few of them that they can be found.
By the way, the Salisbury Club offered for a few guys, they're holding one of these, they do this every week, just about every week in the summer. And they offered anybody that wants to, from FARC, from the Forsyth Amateur Radio Club, if you'd like to go, they are having one in Salisbury next weekend at one of the parks in there. And I can post that up on the website if you want to. If you enter the events or something, if you're interested in looking or seeing how they operate and how they work. They've been doing this for quite a while. They were supposed to be here, they were gonna come, we kind of arranged this a month or so ago, and their club meeting just happened to fall on the same night that ours did here. So they couldn't come, so we're kind of putting this together. But they can explain that there are certain rules that they do. They can't hide the transmitter more than 6 feet off the ground, so can't be underground, can't be in a building. So what they do is just strap it on a tree, usually somewhere, and then in sight, and then when the guys go out and hunt the transmitter, they don't actually tell anybody that they found the Fox. They actually just kind of wander around and go back to the coordinator, and the coordinator writes down the time that they found the transmitter, and then the rest of the guys can still have a chance to find it, but it gives whoever gets the shortest time obviously wins the contest. So they have like a 2-hour time frame, and you kind of wander around until you find the Fox, and then come back to the coordinator and write it down. But they don't tell each other, you know, hey, it's on that tree over there. They kind of just wander around. They know where it is, and they go back to the coordinator and they mark it down. That's how they do theirs. So that's pretty much the rules of. I'm sure you can set up your own rules or, you know, whatever.
Since Steve's not here at the end of the night, I'll auction this antenna off for me.
That's a winning antenna.
But anyway, the Fox, we have it IDing so that it IDs every few minutes. And that way it gives you a chance to find it. This one runs automatic. It's got a programmable controller in it. I just programmed it to do. These are legal under 97, by the way. They're listed as a beacon station. So you can actually operate these on the amateur bands with a call as a legal beacon station under 97. So that way, just in case anybody's wondering about, and of course that ID for those who don't do the code is W4NC. So, but, and it also has a voice ID as well, which is a parody on the word fox.
I am the Fox. Transmitting from the hidden location. Find me if you can. W4MC.
And of course, that would happen every 15 seconds or so when you're out there looking for that transmitter. But anyway, that's pretty much what we had. We thought we'd just put something together so you guys are, if you were interested, we could do it as a club event, maybe as something to put some antennas together on the cheap side, and everybody get together and do it. Give somebody experience in finding a transmitter like Mike's talking about. Somebody interfering with a repeater, which we have had our share.
I have never been on a fox hunt, but I've been on plenty of noise hunts, you know, guys talking about noise, and we use basically the same system. You know, you put a 6-meter radio, an AM, and some type of antenna, and here we'd go, and we'd find noise, you know, 2 or 3 miles away. Bill Smitherman and I, one night, were looking for some noise. He'd get on 15 meters and had noise. He said, every time I point my antenna south, I can hear it. So we got us a 6-meter 706, put it on 6-meter AM and low antenna, and we went down the road, and we came, it was just saturated the S-meter, and there was a group of telephone poles over there, and it was a big island. I bet there was 6 transformers and wires, and this is it. How are we gonna find it? I don't know. And I'd go over with the big old hammer. Boom, I'd hit the pole, you know. No, not a thing. And I hit every pole in there, and I was just tired of hitting poles. And we couldn't get it to change, so, you know, so we'll come back another time. And there was a church right across the street, and we said, Bill said, I'm gonna go turn around. He said, all right. So we turned around in the parking lot and went in the back of the church, and man, the S-meter just pegged. And it was a big green transformer, ground mounted, was the problem. And I walked that thing and kicked it, and it was, hey, we found it. So, all right.
What did you
I'll
do after
leave
that?
this up here if anybody wants to just look at it and look and see the inside of it. It's just a programmable controller and a little walkie-talkie there.
Basically what Bill's done that several times. The power company guys, you have to do your own detective work. If you got a noise problem, you know, they'll send a line truck out, and these guys, you know, Bubba and John on this truck, you know, say, what are we supposed to do? They do have some technical people, but most of the time you won't get them. So if you'll find a telephone pole, and about all poles have a number on them, you can call and tell them to report this number, and help them. If you'll do the detective work, find the pole, they'll come out and usually fix it.
So having a radio and a sledgehammer is what it takes.
Well, the sledgehammer is a critical part here, you know. Somebody big enough with a bit of a swing at things. Just kicking them when you can't shoot doesn't do much to them. But I found several problems like that. In this case, Duke Power, or whoever it was up in his county. Bill's called them 2 or 3 times over the years for similar type problems. Bill's always found it, and they came out and worked with him and fixed it. And I'm sure they'll do the same thing here. But you got to do your own detective work and find the problem for them. So,
Tom Tower calls me in all the time.
yeah, Tom does. So yeah, it's fun to do. Well, it's a necessity. You know, if you turn on your radio and you got S9 noise level, you know, it's time to do something. So, and you'll notice these problems. If the wet weather, it goes down, which means grounds and arcing is down to a minimum. Dry weather, when it gets extremely dry, that's when you start noticing arcing problems for the most part. Okay.
So we covered fox hunting and how to find noise.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
So, is there any interest in the club doing a fox hunt? By show of hands. Anybody interested in participating in one? Okay. We'll see if we can't figure out a time, probably after field day, unless, you know, somebody says they want to do it before. And obviously Jerry's got the fox built, so we can get with him and see about obtaining that for use.
You could still do that during field day, because back up there is bike paths and stuff.
We could.
Around those lakes.
But I don't know that that would be, I don't know that that would be a good place to hide it. I have reservations about hiding anything in that park.
I'd really love for somebody to get the construction details and write it up so I can put it in the.
Would you like for somebody to do that for you? Is that a request? We'll have to see if we can make that happen.
Make it so.
All right, I think Eric's got an announcement he wanted to make.
Yeah, just one quick announcement. I hope everybody's doing okay this evening. I'm making this announcement on behalf of Jim Mansfield, who is our county emergency coordinator. And we have a public service event coming up on June the 2nd called the Three Mount Madness. And those that have been here that have participated in that before know that this is a very good event for our club to demonstrate amateur radio. Jim did ask for me to pass around a list tonight for those that may be interested. It is on June the 2nd. It is an all-day event. We usually meet at McDonald's in Rural Hall about 6:30 a.m. and we leave from there and go to the Civic Center up in Pinnacle, which is where the start-finish line is. The cyclists ride from Hanging Rock, well, up and down Hanging Rock, over to Sourtown Mountain, up and down Sourtown, over to Pilot Mountain, up and down Pilot Mountain, and back to the start-finish line. And they need amateur radio operators to help them with communication around that terrain because there's pretty much no cell phone coverage in a lot of these areas. And we have been very instrumental in the past as far as helping them with their communication, so they are requesting that again. I do have a sheet here that I'm going to start here at the front for those that may be interested. If you already know your schedule for June the 2nd and would like to volunteer, you can also contact Jim Mansfield, who is our county EC. His call sign is WA4NOT at ARRL.net. So if you know the ARRL.net part, his call sign is WA4NOT. And you can contact myself, WK4CW at ARRL.net. We'll be glad to get you the information that you need as far as signing up for the event.
How long does it go, Eric?
It goes from, the race starts at 8 a.m. and they usually go to about, the last riders come in around 4 in the afternoon. We usually packed up and out there by 4:30, 4:45.
And there's always a lunch provided.
And there's always a lunch provided.
And a t-shirt.
And a t-shirt. You gotta love the t-shirts for the events. But,
Yeah. There's one year, here's another year.
yeah, he actually has on the Three Mount Madness t-shirt from
Who's done?
one of the, and he does too, from the several years that we've participated. And I think it's been a total of maybe, 15, 16 years now that we've done communications for that event. And they really do need our help with this. Like I said, in that terrain, amateur radio is very important as far as them handling communications between sag wagons, looking for lost riders, communicating between rest stops and so forth. So if you gentlemen can come out on the 2nd and, you know, volunteer your time for that day, we certainly appreciate it. So that's all I have for this evening. Thank you.
How many people do you need?
Glad you asked that question because that was there and it kind of just went off into space. But I think we're going to run 6 sag wagons, so we need 6 sag operators, about 6 rest stop operators. We're going to have 2 relay stations, one on Sourtown and one on Pilot Mountain, and usually a net control and also a backup net control station. So we're looking at a total of about 16. We usually like to have about 17 or 18 just to make sure we're in the safe zone. But we usually handle the event with about 16 to 17 operators.
If I may interject, the stations that are up on top of the mountains get a lot of traffic.
Yes, the relay stations receive a lot of traffic because they're also in communications with the Gold Wing riders. They do have Gold Wing riders that run this course and they operate on CB Channel 1. So usually the relays also monitor Channel 1 on Citizens Band and they pick up a lot of traffic also from the Gold Wing riders that they can relay over to amateur radio and to the race coordinators and different personnel and so forth. So, I mean, I've done it for 4 or 5 years now. I have fun every time I do it. And, you know, it's a good show for amateur radio for, you know, to get out and show the public what amateur radio is actually capable of doing. And the folks that we do it for, they're good people and they really do appreciate our help in past years when we've done it. So if you can volunteer.
They show it too.
Yes, they do show their appreciation for us coming out and helping them. So if
What
you
are
guys,
the dates?
it's June the 2nd, Saturday, June the 2nd. And like I said, most of our activity is going to be on 2 meters through the repeaters. Those that have a 11 meter capability, that's always, you know, if you want to bring it, that's fine, especially for the sag wagon operators. But you know, the earlier rest stops are going to clear out around 11 or 12. So you can also work in the morning if you want to work an earlier rest stop. You can come out at 8 and usually be done by 12. If you want to work one of the later rest stops, you can usually show up around 10 a.m. and be there until about 4 p.m. So we will work with scheduling also as far as different people's schedules and the availability that they have. You know, that could be worked out also. So Anybody have any other questions? All right, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you, Eric. All right, and in light of time, for the next 30 minutes, since our remaining programs are videos and they're both longer, we're gonna have a social half hour, I guess you could say. And if anybody wants to step into the shack and check out any of the equipment that's available for bid and place your bids, feel free. Unless anybody has anything else that they want to talk to the club about.
We got Cliff for field day for
Good.
barbecue.
That means you need to come out and at least eat. Show up, work a station or two and eat, because the barbecue's gonna be delicious. For those that were here a few years ago and remember it, it was incredible.
So is this brisket.
Yes.
This brisket's excellent.
Tim,
Yes.
we might ought to do a little PR for the event this year, more so than last.
Okay.
And everybody that, by the way, I contacted the FCC because I wanted to make sure that I read somewhere where the ARL in their ruling, for this year, they're saying that technician operators can operate any class, any band, anywhere during field day events. So I'm not sure everybody knows that, but even the technician class operators can operate full privileges during field day.
From a station with a control
Low band,
operator?
Low band, everything.
With a control operator?
With the control,
Okay.
and the control operator being the
Being
privileges
present.
of W4NC.
Right.
Right.
Well, that was one reason for us trying to have as many stations set up. If we can get the people out, we're gonna.
We'll have radios to put
something
you
they
on.
can get on and operate.
Not just to go to station. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah,
technician
yeah.
operators can operate.
Yeah. And with us running 100 watts this time, it should help us. I mean, let's face it, if you're running 5 watts, it takes a special person to run 5 watts and hang with it. And,
It's not that hard.
It's just like I told you, I gave Gene the analogy last year. Running 5 watts in field day is like running 100 watts in CQ Worldwide.
I've run 5 watts.
Well,
in
John,
CQ
like I
Worldwide
said,
and
it
played
works
second
better
to
when your
world.
version is not
Come on.
shorted out at the top of the tower. Works a lot better. I made like one contact last year, CW, to some guy in California.
should
That
help
was
us
it.
out.
Yeah. Which brings up a good point. Is there any equipment in particular, Gene, that you're thinking of that you're gonna need some specific help making sure is ready? You know, specific,
Henry has said he'll come check the generator out.
okay,
And other than that, I'm trying to get through, I've got to go through all the coax. I'm taking the rest of the club's coax home. And we're gonna, there's a couple of people already said they'll go out to the site with me before then, which will probably be, it might be one evening this week. And let's look over things and decide exactly where all the antennas are gonna go. I've already looked at the aerial view on Google Earth and kind of know what I'm planning on doing, but at any rate, like I said, if it works out where I can, I'd like to get some people that would like to say, you know, I want to put this antenna up, come get with me before field day, and even if it's for a couple hours one evening.
Yeah.
And we could sit down and look at what they, you know, one antenna for them to assemble and put up there. It'd sure make the job a lot easier on that day.
We doing hobby parks again?
yeah. It'd be worthwhile to mention too, the way Gene's doing the antennas this time, it's not gonna be, you know, untangle this and untangle that. The ones that have already been assembled and tested are actually broken down to a point where you go out there, you can unfold them, put the bolts in for the directional antennas, put the mass pipe on it, pop it in the ground and tie it off and you're done. You know, so it's not like you're gonna spend 5 hours putting one antenna up if you're, you know, you're afraid to do that. It's gonna be a pretty straightforward process.
Yeah, even the TH3 up on the trailer, if we get a couple of people that, once Jim's seen how everything goes with it, 2 people can probably put that thing, or 3 at the most, can put that thing up and be done in an hour and a half with it, an hour to hour and a half at the most.
Yeah.
Once we get through, because then I'll go back and mark everything and make sure it's all tuned, which we've needed to do for a while, so.
What day is it? 23rd?
Last full weekend in June, I think it is the 23rd this time.
Last full week.
Full weekend, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need your mask again, all 3 of them.
Yeah, yeah.
on that weekend.
And I guess
We're gonna socialize
we're
now?
socializing now.
Okay.
Y'all socialize.